7 months earlier, I stumbled upon the devastating truth that my wife was having an affair with a man well into middle age. Just like that, nearly a decade of my life had been tossed aside as if it meant nothing. At the time, I was 31, and she was 33. The man she had chosen over me, let's call him her drill partner, was pushing 50. The way I found out wasn't through any investigation or suspicion on my part. It was pure chance, a twist of fate that placed me in the right spot at the perfect moment. I had been out of town for a business trip and was originally scheduled to return the following day. However, my meetings wrapped up ahead of schedule, so I decided to make the drive home early and surprise her. Rather than calling in advance, I figured it would be a nice touch to simply show up unannounced. On my way back, I noticed my gas gauge dipping low, prompting me to exit the highway for a quick refill. The station I stopped at was about 12 miles from home, nowhere near where I expected to run into anything unusual. After fueling up, I got back on the road, but the drive back to the highway was sluggish. Every intersection was marked by a stop sign or a traffic light, causing traffic to inch forward at a frustratingly slow pace. As I sat at a four-way stop, waiting for my turn to move, my gaze drifted to a side street. That's when I saw it, our car. It was pulling out from somewhere and heading in the same direction I was. For a second, I questioned whether I was imagining things, but no, that was definitely her vehicle. A sharp, uneasy feeling settled in my gut. What is she doing here? Just a few hours earlier, we had talked on the phone, and she had said nothing about being in this area. Something didn't feel right. I grabbed my phone and called her. It rang 4 times before she finally answered, her voice slightly breathless, like she had just finished running. Hey, she greeted me, but there was something off in her tone. What are you up to? I asked, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. Oh. There was the slightest pause. I was just about to call you. My brows furrowed. Yeah? Where are you? I just had to run a quick errand, she said, still sounding a bit off. Why? I swallowed the creeping suspicion rising inside me. My meetings ended early, I told her. I'm on my way home. At that, she immediately perked up, feigning excitement. She asked how soon I'd be there, making it seem as though she was already at the house waiting for me. I estimated that I'd arrive in about 15 minutes. As we spoke, I could hear the background hum of a moving vehicle. She was definitely driving. Where are you heading? I asked casually. There was a brief hesitation before she answered. Oh, just going to the store. Something in her voice made my stomach clench tighter. Which one? The one closest to our house, she replied, a little too quickly. That was a lie. I could see her car just a few hundred yards ahead of me, merging onto the highway. If she were really heading to the store near our house, there was no logical reason for her to be this far out. At that moment, I knew she was either cheating or tangled up in something she didn't want me to know about. And if there was nothing to hide, why would she lie? For a moment, I considered confronting her right then and there. But then another thought crossed my mind. I wanted to see how far she was willing to go with this lie. Great, I said smoothly. I'll meet you there, and then we can grab dinner. There was a brief pause before she answered, her enthusiasm slightly forced. That sounds great. I smirked. She hadn't expected that. Then, as calmly as I could, I added, I just passed the rest area. That rest area was directly behind her. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, without warning, she slammed her foot on the gas. Her car shot forward, accelerating so fast she had to be pushing over 90 miles an hour within moments. I exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel tighter. Jesus. She knows I'm onto her. She was running, probably thinking, damn, I almost got caught. By the time I arrived at the store's parking lot, she was already there, leaning against her car, trying her best to look casual. As I pulled in, she checked her reflection in a compact mirror, adjusting her clothes, fixing her makeup. It was obvious she was trying to compose herself, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed her. Inside the store, she turned to me. I need to use the restroom. I nodded. Me too. For the briefest second, her face flickered with something anxiety, perhaps? But she quickly masked it with a small smile. I finished up in just a few minutes and stepped outside to wait. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. Still, she hadn't come out. When she finally emerged from the restroom, I smirked and said, I was about ready to send in a search party. She let out a light laugh, waving off my comment. Sorry, I had to do a number 2. I nodded, pretending to believe her, but inside, I knew she was lying. The entire time she had been in there, the sound of the sink running never stopped. She wasn't using the toilet, She was cleaning herself up, washing away whatever traces of her little rendezvous she could. We finished shopping and decided to grab some prepared food from the store instead of going out for dinner. I kept my expression neutral, but my mind was racing, replaying every suspicious moment in my head, every clue that confirmed my worst fears. When we got home and sat down to eat, I leaned back in my chair and asked casually, "So, how was your day?" She didn't pause for even a second. Taking a bite of her food, she casually remarked that nothing noteworthy had happened, just another ordinary day. She had gone to work and then come straight home. Straight home. Sure. My grip on the fork tightened. Each new lie that left her lips made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay composed. If I confronted her without solid proof, she'd only gaslight me, twist the narrative, and make me feel like I was imagining things. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind running in circles. Sleep wouldn't come. Meanwhile, she slept soundly beside me, her breathing steady and peaceful, as if she had no worries at all. It stunned me how effortlessly she could do that. You'd expect her to be restless, afraid of being caught, but no, she was completely at ease. And there I was, unable to shut my mind off, tossing and turning, trying to piece everything together. The following evening, while she was busy making dinner, I decided to check her phone. Nothing. No suspicious messages, no questionable calls. I went online and reviewed our phone and credit card bills. Again, nothing unusual. For a brief moment, relief washed over me. Maybe I had been mistaken. Maybe I had let paranoia get the best of me. But the doubt crept back in almost immediately. Just because I hadn't found anything didn't mean she wasn't cheating. It only meant she was good at covering her tracks. By then, my patience was wearing thin. I needed real proof. And I was determined to get it. Looking back, I know I made the right call. But at the time, it was torture, keeping up the act, pretending everything was fine while my gut screamed otherwise. A week passed, and life carried on as usual. I played my role, smiling at the right moments, maintaining the facade of the devoted husband. But inside, I was unraveling, watching, waiting, certain that it was only a matter of time before she slipped up again. Then, one afternoon, she called me at work. "Hey, babe," she said in a light, casual tone. "Just wanted to let you know I have to stay late tonight. It's our monthly close, and we're a little backed up." I leaned back in my chair, gripping my phone a little tighter. "Oh yeah? How late?" "Not sure, maybe an hour or two. I'll text you when I'm heading home." I forced my voice to sound normal. "All right, sounds good. Don't work too hard." We exchanged goodbyes, and I hung up, staring at my phone. Something about her tone didn't sit right with me. Sure, she had worked late before, but this time, I felt it in my gut. This wasn't about work. This was something else. I thought back to the previous week, to the place where I had spotted her, the street where she had no reason to be. That's where she was going. I was sure of it. That afternoon, I left work a little early. By 4:30, I had already arrived at the area, making a few slow passes down the street. Nothing. Her car was nowhere in sight. Not wanting to draw attention, I drove off and parked at the McDonald's near the main intersection, keeping a close watch on the road. And then, at exactly 4:45, there she was. Her car rolled up to the light before making that all-too-familiar turn down that street. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I waited 10 minutes, long enough for her to settle in. Then, I followed. Sure enough, there it was, her car, neatly parked in the driveway of one of the houses. And right beside it sat a brand-new Ram pickup truck. I stared at the house, my heart pounding. My fist clenched, and for a moment, all I wanted was to get out of my car, storm up to that door, and pound on it until someone answered. I wanted to see the look on her face, to lay eyes on the man she was betraying me with. But I didn't. Something deep inside urged me to stop. Instead, I pulled out my phone, snapped a few photos of her car sitting in that driveway, and then drove away. My mind was racing, my stomach twisting. It was no longer just a suspicion, I had my proof. The moment I got home, I pulled up the address online. I needed to know exactly who this man was. A quick search revealed the homeowner's name, and the results made my stomach churn. He wasn't some random stranger. He was the co-owner of a business that worked closely with her company. She wasn't just sneaking around with some nobody, she was involved with a client. Digging deeper, I uncovered more. The records show that he was about 50 years old and had lived at this address since the year 2009. The records show that he was about 50 years old and had lived at this address since the year 2009. More searching confirmed he was divorced with 2 kids in college. Perfect. A businessman with nothing to lose, preying on a married woman who had no qualms about betraying her husband. Later that night, she walked through the door all smiles, carrying bags of takeout from my favorite Chinese place. Like that was supposed to make everything okay. She approached me with a bright, cheerful expression, as if nothing was wrong. Her eyes were warm, and she moved in for a kiss. But I turned slightly, offering only a half-hearted air kiss. That wasn't enough for her. With a playful pout, she grabbed my chin. "Ah, none of that," she teased. "Give me a real one." Every fiber of my being wanted to recoil. There was no way in hell I was putting my lips anywhere near hers, not after where she had just been. But I forced myself, pressing a quick, cold kiss to her lips before immediately pulling away. We sat down to eat, and I did my best to appear normal, though every bite felt like swallowing poison. My mind raced, planning my next move. "I have to go out to a customer location tomorrow," I said casually between bites. "I won't be home until the evening." Her eyes flickered with interest as she perked up. "Oh yeah? Where are you going?" "Couple of towns over," I replied, keeping it vague. "What time are you leaving?" she asked, trying to sound nonchalant. "Early," I answered. "Probably won't be back until later." I could see it happening. Her mind was working, collecting information, strategizing. She thought she was being subtle, but I saw right through her. Then, with a sweet smile, she said, "Well, don't stop to get anything on your way home. I'll have dinner waiting for you." The thought made my stomach churn. Dinner? After spending her day with him? Acting like some devoted wife? It was disgusting. But that dinner wasn't going to happen because I had other plans. There was no customer visit scheduled for tomorrow. The only stop I planned was at her drill partner's house. If I found her car parked there again, that was it. I would call her out on the spot and leave without telling her where I was going. And, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, things played out exactly as I expected. By afternoon, I drove over. And there it was. Her car, parked in the same damn spot as before. My stomach clenched, but this time, there was no shock. Just confirmation. Without hesitation, I turned the car around, went home, booked a hotel, and started packing my bags. Every shirt I folded, every zipper I pulled closed, felt like sealing the final door on this marriage. But I wasn't sad. I was just done. Once everything was in order, I grabbed my phone and called her. She picked up immediately, her voice bright and cheerful, as if she was thrilled to hear from me. "Hey, babe," she chirped. "What's up?" My jaw tightened. "What are you doing?" "Oh, just sitting in a conference room, working on a spreadsheet," she replied casually. "Lying so easily." "You're lying," I said flatly. A pause. Then, "What?" "I know where you are. I know who you're with. And I know exactly what you're doing." My voice was calm, but it was ice cold. "You're either sharing personal moments him right now, or just finished sharing him. Just like you did yesterday. Just like you did last week." Silence. Not even an attempt to deny it. No protests. No desperate. "No, I swear it's not like that." "Nothing. I'm done with you," I continued. "And I won't be home when you get there." Still, nothing. Just dead air on the other end. I let that sink in for a moment before finally saying all the words I had been holding back for too damn long. Then I hung up. Leaning back, I exhaled and waited. 20 minutes passed before my phone started buzzing. Calls. Texts. Over and over. She was in full-blown panic mode now. And I knew exactly why it took her that long to react. Because the second I hung up, she had turned to him, wide-eyed, and said, "Oh my God. My husband knows about us." For 20 minutes, she had been scrambling, thinking, panicking, spinning excuses, trying to figure out how to save herself. Now, she was ready to talk. For the next 24 hours, my phone never stopped buzzing. She must have left me at least 50 voicemails and sent over 100 text messages. I should have blocked her, but a part of me wanted to see just how desperate she'd get. At first, she clung to denial. "It's not what it looks like. I can explain." As if any explanation could justify this. As if I hadn't seen her car parked in that driveway. Twice. When I didn't respond, she shifted tactics. The denial crumbled, replaced by pleading. "I'm so sorry, Mark. Please, just talk to me." Then, the full-blown hysteria set in. Hours upon hours of texts and voicemails filled with sobbing. Begging. Isn't that how it always goes? They don't care when they're sneaking around, but the second they get caught, they turn into a damn disaster. That night, after checking into the hotel, I stopped by the bar to take the edge off. I hadn't eaten much, so the alcohol hit me fast, dulling the rage just enough. When I got back to my room, I did what I needed to do. I immediately called our parents and laid everything bare. With alcohol still buzzing in my system, I didn't filter a single detail. I told them everything, every grimy truth. My mother gasped in disbelief. Mark, no, she wouldn't. Oh, but she did. I cut in, my voice devoid of emotion. She's been sleeping with some guy in his 50s, a customer from her company. I caught her in the act. Silence. Then my father, always the calm and rational one, cleared his throat. Son, are you absolutely sure? A bitter laugh escaped me. Dad, I saw her car parked at his place. Twice. She lied straight to my face while she was inside his house. When I confronted her, she didn't even bother to deny it. What more proof do you need? My mother's voice wavered. I thought you two were happy. Lying on my hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt nothing. Yeah, so did I. They were stunned, horrified. Just like me, they had believed our marriage was solid. But that was nothing more than a well-crafted illusion, wasn't it? In the months that followed, I moved from one hotel to another while working through the divorce. I cut all contact with her, no calls, no texts. No one knew where I was except my parents. I didn't trust anyone else not to leak my location. Most people were on my side, except for her closest friends, which was no surprise. But even those supporting me kept repeating the same thing. You should at least meet with her. Hear her out. Let her apologize in person. From the messages she bombarded me with and the updates mutual friends fed me, I knew she wasn't handling the fallout well. That was to be expected. She had gone from sneaking around behind my back to full-blown panic when she realized I was done. But instead of letting her deal with the consequences of her own actions, her friends decided to make it my responsibility. At first, it was just pressure, pleading texts, long-winded voicemails from acquaintances I barely knew, all repeating the same message. Just talk to her, Mark. She's struggling. At least let her explain. Then her older sister got involved, and that's when things turned ugly. One evening, my phone rang, and I picked up without thinking. Big mistake. Mark, what the hell is wrong with you? Her voice was sharp, dripping with anger. She's falling apart, and you don't even care? I exhaled slowly, already exhausted. That's not my problem. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. God, Mark, she loved you. She made a mistake, and you're just throwing everything away like it meant nothing? My jaw clenched. It meant everything. That's why I refused to tolerate it. She threw it away the moment she climbed into bed with someone else. Her sister let out a derisive scoff. So you're just going to ignore her? What if something happens? What if she hesitated, then spat it out? What if she does something drastic? That would be on you. That was it. That was the line. I took a slow, steady breath before speaking. Let me make one thing absolutely clear, her choices are not my responsibility. She created this mess, not me. And if you or anyone else tries to guilt-trip me into taking her back, lose my number. Then I hung up and blocked her. The next day, I found out she and her friends had been running their mouths to anyone who would listen, painting me as the cold, heartless villain. But the real gut punch came when her parents turned against me too. That one hurt. We had always been close. Her dad and I would grab beers together, and her mom always said I was like the son they never had. I truly believed they saw me as family. But in the end, blood proved thicker than an 8-year marriage. Her mom called me, her voice thick with disappointment. Mark, can't you just talk to her? No, I said without hesitation. She sighed, the weight of it heavy through the phone. You were like a son to us. And now you're just giving up. A bitter chuckle escaped me. Giving up? She's the one who cheated. Or did you forget that part? She made a mistake, her mother insisted. People work through these things all the time. Well, I'm not one of those people. That was the last time we spoke. They made their choice, and I made mine. Thankfully, my own family and close friends stood by me. They were the ones who reminded me that I wasn't being irrational, that I wasn't the villain here, no matter how much her side tried to manipulate the situation. I kept my distance, letting my lawyer handle everything. My wife fought hard against the divorce, offering me anything if I would just stay. But I was done. When she finally understood that nothing she said or did could change my mind, she relented and signed the papers. From there, things moved quickly. Last month, the divorce was finalized. A clean break. No lingering ties. I won't pretend I was some unshaken, emotionless rock through it all. 8 years is a long time to share a life with someone. There were plenty of sleepless nights, moments when the weight of it all nearly crushed me. But I pushed through. And now, I'm free. On the day I signed the divorce papers, I sat down with a blank sheet of paper and wrote 5 promises to myself, vows of self-respect, resilience, and freedom. Never let anyone make me feel unworthy again. Live life on my own terms, not for the convenience of others. Love myself first, always. There were more, each one a quiet rebellion against the years I had wasted on someone who never truly valued me. I folded the paper and tucked it away, unsure if I would ever look at it again. That should have been the end of it. But she still believes we have a future. She keeps saying we're meant to be, that fate will bring us back together, just like it did in the beginning. I can say with absolute certainty that will never happen. She still reaches out to me several times a week, 3 or 4 times, usually, updating me on her life, telling me how much she misses me, and repeatedly apologizing. By now, I probably should have blocked her, but if I'm being honest, I kind of enjoy hearing about how miserable she is. Maybe that makes me petty, but after everything she put me through, I think I'm allowed a little satisfaction at her expense. As for her drill partner, well, I can't say too much about that just yet. Let's just say my lawyer and his lawyer are currently handling something, and I'll leave it at that. Now, get this, she told me he meant nothing to her, that she had completely cut him off. But you know what? I don't care. It doesn't make a difference whether he was a meaningless fling or the supposed love of her life. The reality is, she betrayed me, and there's no coming back from that. 7 months later, her drill partner handed over $200,000 to settle the case. And you'd better believe I took the money. There was no point in dragging things out any longer when I had already won in every way that actually mattered. I was free of a cheating wife, and better yet, I got paid for it. Some people might call it hush money. I call it compensation for wasted years. A few weeks ago, an unknown number called me. Normally, I don't answer those, but something told me to pick up. "Mark, it's Emma." Her mother's voice came through the line, unsteady and uncertain. I almost ended the call right then, but I waited. I knew why she was reaching out. She collapsed at home. They found her on the floor. She wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. The doctors say it's severe depression. They've put her in a rehab facility. I stayed silent. What was I supposed to say? That I felt bad for her? That I'd come running back to fix the mess she created? Emma sniffled on the other end. "Mark, please. If you just talk to her." No, my voice was firm. Cold. "She's not my problem anymore. She's sick, Mark. She needs help. I cut her off. She should have thought about that before she spread her legs for another man. I owe her nothing." Silence. Then, in a quiet, broken voice, she whispered, "She still loves you." I let out a bitter laugh. "No, Emma. She loved what I gave her, the life, the stability, the comfort. But me? If she truly loved me, she wouldn't have destroyed everything we built. Don't call me again." And I hung up. At that moment, I realized that as long as I stayed in the city, they would always find a way to reach me. So with that money, I bought a small farm out in the countryside, a place far removed from the noise and the memories. I got myself a few animals, chickens, goats, even a couple of horses. I traded the stress of corporate life for the simplicity of open fields and peaceful sunrises. I left my job for good. No more meetings. No more deadlines. No more dealing with people I had no interest in dealing with. Out here, it's just me, the land, and the animals. I wake up with the sun, work with my hands, and breathe in the fresh, open air. Years later, in the peaceful solitude of my new home, I found my vows of self-respect, resilience, and freedom tucked away in an old notebook, buried beneath papers I had long forgotten. The ink had faded slightly, but the words still carried weight. As I read through them, a realization settled deep in my chest. I had honored every single one. For the first time in a long time, I feel good, not just emotionally, but physically and mentally. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe to the channel.